It is an honor to be here, and honestly pretty timely if you ask me. I'm fresh on the other side of my quarter-life crisis now. I just turned 26, so your girl is aged out. I'm on the other side of that quarter-life phase. If you're not familiar, a quarter-life crisis is basically like a midlife crisis, just 25 years early. Hi, it's Health Clips Daily, let's dive in. You're still asking questions like, who am I? Am I using my time well? What do I really want to do about family, career, health, and all those important things? This is especially true for millennials because it's a pretty big phenomenon. According to the CDC, 1 in 3 millennials has a diagnosed anxiety disorder, and anxiety is a key element of any crisis. Proven math, I promise. For us, it's not just about figuring those things out, but also doing so in a world that human history has never seen before. We have the internet with endless information, and we're living in some of the most innovative and prosperous times, according to the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IMF. Yet, we're still seeing persistent inequalities that seem like they haven't shifted in centuries. Climate scientists warn that if we don't change our ways by 2050, we'll have irreparably damaged our planet. A lot is going on, right? When you're searching for purpose, which often comes in the question of what you want to do with your life, that's a big challenge. I have a theory that millennials and everyone else are probably a little scared. So in the spirit of openness, it's time to overshare. I want to work through my quarter-life crisis with you and share how I believe that following purpose has kept us stuck. Instead, we should be focusing on wellness, and I truly believe that will give us the answers we've been searching for. I've been fortunate to know my deepest fears since I was very young. Some call it precocious, others call it an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. Tomato, tomato. The first time I realized what was really going on, because I always felt like something was there, was when I was in Trinidad visiting family. I adored my grandmother, she's incredibly creative. One morning we were walking to her kiln to get her new ceramics, and I noticed her fingers were really wrinkly. Her green veins were more pronounced than I was used to, and her fingers were a little thin. It hit me, she's older and she's not going to be here forever, and I was like her. So I'd be older, and I won't be here forever. That little 8-year-old me started walking into an existential crisis. I had to let go quickly because my hand had gone limp, and she thought I didn't love her anymore. She asked if I didn't want to hold her hand, so I squeezed it tighter to prove I loved her. And I told myself, okay, I know I'm scared to not be here, so I'll love my loved ones really hard, figure out how to be a good person, and follow my purpose. I was all in. Deep in school, I joined all sorts of clubs, volunteered as a leader. I was an RA, caring for 30 women every year. I was doing everything right, but something felt off. I didn't feel like myself, so I thought, oh, maybe I'm just busy. That's the price of purpose, right? I was stressed but convinced I just needed a vacation or rest. That summer of 2015, I had a mentor named Julia Hannah Brain, who was shepherding a grant with the NEH. We partnered to bring that project to Trinidad and Tobago, working with the University of West Indies to serve people with disabilities. I was thrilled to go back to Trinidad, see my family, and take a break. But even then, something was still off. I thought the ocean air and island breeze would melt away my worries. But about halfway through, during a harvest festival at a Catholic church, I wasn't even Catholic, but my grandmother was. I started thinking about her spiritual life and purpose. I was distracted, and suddenly, out of nowhere, I felt like a freight train hit me in the chest. I was trembling, felt like the whole world was trembling, and I was being pulled apart. I was having a panic attack, something I'd never experienced before. It felt like an earthquake in my body. I looked around to see if everything else was shaking, and it wasn't. I was freaking out, hated how I was feeling, and couldn't stop it. So I went back into the church, kneeled, and started praying and crying, unsure of what I was saying, just begging for it to stop. That moment was huge for me. It slowed me down enough to realize I needed help. Back in the States, I decided to seek therapy. I was an RA, always telling my residents to see a counselor if they felt off, so I needed to practice what I preached. I prepared myself, I wrote down everything I'd gone through, thought I'd just read my list to the therapist, and she'd tell me I needed sleep, water, rest, and self-care, and that's what I believed I needed. I walked into therapy with my list, but when she asked how I was, I said I was great. She listened, then asked again. So I pulled out my list and started explaining everything I'd been through. expecting her to tell me obvious things, but then her trusting smile changed into something more serious, and suddenly I burst into tears. That was the first time I was completely honest with myself out loud. What I didn't tell you earlier is that I was heartbroken. The person I was with for 5 years, my high school sweetheart, I broke up with him not long before because we didn't truly know ourselves outside of the relationship. I also went through a tumor scare in my breast during the 2008 stock market, crashed so much financial stress on my family as a young girl, and I was feeling anxious and depressed, though I didn't realize it. There are many more on that list I'm not sharing, but the point is I was avoiding myself, chasing external accomplishments, thinking that if I achieved enough. The next 5 years I had to get back to the basics. What does health look like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially? I made those things my number one priority, because that's really about making me my priority. That felt wild because I was used to dreaming outwardly, loving, serving, and trying to make peace around the world. But when you're avoiding yourself, that's not possible. I developed a wellness routine focusing on sleep, hydration, social connections, and self-love. Like flowers, which my parents probably knew when they named me Chloe, meaning blossoming. You get to know yourself when you take a pause and look inward. That's when I started having moments of real peace inside, no matter what was happening. And then 2019 arrived, the hardest and most rewarding year of my life so far. The program I'd been building for over 3 years was finally funded, and I was named to several professional lists, including Forbes, 30 Under 30. Wow, I didn't see that coming. I also fell deeply in love with an incredible partner, traveling across the US and Europe. It was the healthiest relationship I'd ever had, but it was also the toughest year, dealing with debilitating anxiety, feeling stuck in bed at times, and losing loved ones to gun violence. I didn't expect any of that. I still ask myself how we can make meaningful change in the world when so much pulls at us. I'm most proud of one thing. Through every bit of challenge and success, I was present, healthy, and true to myself. That's what I call wellness, being able to manage internal and external pressures in harmony. Knowing who you are and feeling at peace with everything inside and around you. Because in the end, you can't give or create peace for the world if you don't first find peace within yourself. If you want to save the world or live in a thriving environment where prosperity is shared, you start with you. You focus on what health looks like, physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and spiritually, and work hard on being good at you. Because just like hurt people, peaceful people build peace. My challenge to you today is simple. Commit to cultivating your wellness. Once you fill yourself with peace, it will naturally flow out into the spaces around you. And I can guarantee you'll enjoy your life so much more. That's the true reason we're here. Thanks for being part of this journey.